Predator Badlands was directed by Dan Trachtenberg once again, with a screenplay by Patrick Asen. Trachtenberg and Asen wrote the story, and of course the original characters were created by Jim and John Thomas. It stars Elle Fanning, Demetrius Schuster Kolo Amatangi, I hope I've said that somewhere near correct, and Alison Wright, and the Duffer Brothers, those last three being voice roles. Well, I know I'm a bit late to the party with this, but I've talked about Prey, I've talked about Killer of Killers. I don't think I've ever talked about Predator 1 or 2. I don't think I've talked about any of the Alien films, aside from some of the more recent ones. And I'm not sure if I've talked about either of the AVP films. I'm quite happy to fill in any of the gaps that I have with those if people really want, because I enjoy both franchises, and this film does absolutely tie those together still. AVP is a thing. What started as a throwaway joke in Predator 2, basically by some set design, is now this whole thing, where they exist in the same universe. And of course, in comic books, they've crossed over with DC, and I think Marvel, and all the things in the past, not Predator, RoboCop, Terminator, so many things have just crossed over through comic books. And whilst it can be fun, I don't want it to carry on. I did notice, I think it was one of the aliens from Independence Day. I think one of those was in here, and I don't want to see in like 5 years, or maybe less, given how things work these days, Independence Day versus Alien versus Predator. I don't want that. The MCU kind of manages a nice like cinematic universe with multiverses now and things like that, but I don't want that to be everything. Not everything has to be a shared universe. Look at I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard so much about the Mario Galaxy film, where one of the things was spoiled really early as part of marketing with Fox McCloud. But from everything I've seen, it's a nostalgia trip, mostly. It's just, look, here's character, look, here's character, look, here's the thing that reminds you of this game. There's little substance to it. And that's what I worry about when franchises just start to incorporate other stuff and they build this massive franchise out of it. Don't do that with this. This does have those ties, absolutely, but it doesn't need to go further. But that said, I did enjoy this film, and I think there's certain things that it nicely added. One of the things I really appreciate that Trachtenberg's been doing is we have so much awareness now of the xenomorph in Aliens. We know so much about so many things in different films, but the Yautja, or the Predators, if you don't know the proper term, but they are quite unknown. And of course in the first film and the second film particularly, that's a crucial part of it. These unseen killers who suddenly appear at some point and, get called one ugly mother. The threat is, you don't know what they are, you don't know what they're capable of. But I think we're now at the point that having some backstory, having some understanding is wanted. For people who've read a lot of, the comics and books and things like that, we already know. I've read some, so I can count myself here. We already know a lot more about what some writers have put into the franchise, into what Yautja culture is like, whether are they all warriors or is there different sort of castes. All of this is quite interesting, and I like how we flesh this out here. We think of predators as, these elite killers, that's what they do, but in AVP that was the rite of passage they were doing. They went to get their stripes effectively, and Dec here is on a similar journey, but with him there's the family dynamic, and that's something that really hasn't been explored before, and it's something I'm very happy to see. He's effectively the runt of the litter. He is I guess that's my child, but really, can we just get rid of him? And he even tries to make that happen. Thankfully, Dec's brother sends him off, and he gets to go on this journey to prove himself. But when we meet Elle Fanning, I didn't realise at first what was going on. I was like, this is interesting. I was like, okay, she's a synthetic of some type. Oh, and she's got no legs. And how they handled that, just having her as his kind of backpack, this very chatty thing behind him, very much counter to what predators are taught. Be quiet, be stealthy, not narrate everything that's going on around you. And Dec's frustration with Thea is just fun to watch. And Elle Fanning's one of those people that I haven't seen much of, but what I see her in, I really like what she's doing. I have a lot of respect for her ability as an actor, and here playing the two roles of Thea and Tessa, I think the delineation between the two is done very well. Obviously, visually we can see differences, but how she carries herself and everything like that is very different. Even when Thea's kind of a bit more assertive and in control, it's still clearly not the same person. And one of the gags that they use with her legs when she's trying to break out is brilliantly done. I can't remember the name. There's someone who's basically her body double for that. And between the two of them, they sold it so well that you don't think of this as two people with, bits of blue either on the top or bottom half or whatever colour they used. But it works so well. I do really think that it's not the most amazing film in the world, but what it was trying to do, it achieved. It had some light moments, it had some heavier moments. And that's what you come to films for. You come to be transported away, sometimes literally to another planet. But you come to not worry about your life. You don't want to be reminded of, unless you're watching documentaries and things. But for something like this, you're going in with an expectation. And to me, this mostly hits it. Dan Trachtenberg is pretty much the Kevin Feige, I guess, of Predator right now. He is the driving force, and I am so appreciative and supportive of what he's doing. And I do want to see more from him in this world, in this universe. Again, let's not over-egg the pudding. Keep it to AVP and maybe little nods and winks, but let's not incorporate them. And just move forward, exploring the outer culture and showing us some stuff that we haven't seen before. That's all I want. So those are my thoughts on Predator Badlands. What did you think? And like I say, do you want me to talk about any of the ones that I haven't got to yet? I'll try at some point. Remember, in my life there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment, but I'll try at some point and see if I can collate a list of the ones I've already done, so I can sort of make a list of the ones I haven't. Maybe put a poll up or something like that so people can vote which way they want me to go, whatever they want me to cover. But like I say, that's a down the road thing. Let me know your thoughts on this, but until next time, as always, thank you for watching and take care.